everyone, welcome back to another Stitches and Scribbles video. Today we are making the half-orc bandana style cowl as part of our Dungeons & Dragons series. For this project you're going to need a set of circular needles, although you can use straight needles and eventually double-pointed needles if that's what you prefer, but I think it's easier to just start with circular needles. Today I'm using 5.5mm needles, although you can adjust your size to whatever yarn you are using. I am using this 5 bulky weight brown yarn. Unfortunately, I do not know what brand of yarn this is because it came in a mill ends or surprise yarn bag. I don't remember which one, but it is a solid 5-ish chunky yarn, and you can substitute with one that you prefer. For this project, we're going to be learning a couple new skills if you are new to knitting and looking to branch out to some more adventurous stitches. In this pattern, we're going to be practicing claw cables. We're also going to be doing both back and forth, like flat knitting, as well as circular knitting, which is why you need either the circular needles or double pointed needles. You could technically do this pattern without them and just sew it up at the end, but if you want to practice that circular knitting skill, this is a great opportunity to do so. We're going to start with a slip knot and casting on 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oh, I did forget to mention, you're also going to need a cable needle for this because we're doing cables, although you can substitute with a single double-pointed needle. Even a safety pin sometimes works, something so that you can get stitches on and off of your needles. After you have done your cast on, our first row is just to knit all to give us a nice base for continuing to work. I like to start a lot of my patterns with a row that is just knit all or like a basic rib, because I find that it's a little hard to find stitches in your cast on row and they split really easily. So I usually start with a plain row just kind of to make sure that we get all of the stitches lined up where they need to be. Then for row 2, we're going to start with an increase, and for this increase we're going to do what is called a knit one front back, and that's usually abbreviated K1FB. So we're going to insert as if to do a normal knit stitch, do the wraparound, go under to draw up that new loop, but we're not going to pull the old stitch off yet. We're going to go into the back of that stitch and whoops, dropped my needles there. This is one of the benefits of chunky yarn, is usually you can just pick things back up. They don't pop out as easily. And we're going to knit through the back loop. Then you're going to purl 8. This is going to be the start of where our center cable is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're going to do another knit one front back. So insert to do a normal knit stitch. Don't pull that old stitch off. Go into the back of the stitch and knit again. Then we have our first increase, and you should be able to see the start of that stockinette section that will eventually become our cable. For row 3, we're going to knit one front back again. Each row is going to start and end with a knit one front back. Then we're going to knit 10. and we're going to knit one front back on the other side of the row. For row 4, this is the wrong side, we're going to start with a knit one front back again, knit and knit, then we're going to knit 2, purl 8 for the back of that cable, then we're going to knit 2 and knit one front back. That's the end of row 4. Sorry for the pause in there. I did have to go locate my cable needle. I like using these U-shaped ones, but the hook-shaped ones will also work, as well as just using another knitting needle or even a safety pin, something where you can just hold your stitches temporarily so that you can do the cable. For row 5, we're going to knit one front and back. We're going to knit 3 to reach our cable. 1, 2, 3. And this is where we're going to start our claw cable. So the first abbreviation you're going to see is cable to forward. What that means is you slide 2 stitches onto your cable needle and let it hang in front of your work. You knit 2 stitches, because you always have to match whatever you're doing. Then you're going to either slide the 2 stitches back on to your needle, or you can just knit off of the cable needle and knit those 2 stitches. That's cable to forward. Now we're going to cable to backwards. So slide off 2 stitches, let it hang behind your work, knit 2, put those 2 stitches back on, and knit those 2 as well. Then to finish off the row, we're going to knit 3, and knit one front back. There we go. It's a little hard to see the cable right now because we've only done one, but you can see that it's going to create cables that kind of go in on themselves and create that lobster claw shape. You can also see our increases starting to form around the edges. For row 6, we're going to knit one front back, knit 4 so that we reach our center cable. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to purl 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we're going to knit 4 again. 1, 2, pull out some yarn, 3, 4, and as always end with a knit one front back. All right, row 7, we're going to knit one front back, And then this is the super easy row because we just knit all the way across until the last stitch, which should be 16 in this case. And in that final stitch, we're going to do a knit one front back again. Here's our last stitch, knit one front, knit one through the back. Okay, row 8. We are again going to start with a knit one front back. And we're going to knit 6, purl 8, knit 6, and knit one front back at the end. Alright, now we're going to start our repeat rows, and these are the rows that we're going to continue using until our bandana shape gets to the width where it fits loosely around your neck. So you can choose how many repeats you do based on what fits best for you, and I will tell you how many rows I end up doing when I get to that stage in the video. So row 9, which is the first row of the repeat, we're going to knit one front back, just like we have been doing. Would help if I didn't drop my stitches again. And then the pattern will say knit until center cable. If you are someone who likes using stitch markers to mark where special things happen, I would put 2 stitch markers around those center 8 stitches to mark your cable. But we're going to knit until that center cable. So keep going until that first stockinette stitch. I can see that that's where my stockinette stitch starts, so if I was using a stitch marker, I would put one right there and then slide it over. Now we're going to cable 2 forward, so get that cable needle out, let it hang in front of your work, knit 2, put those 2 stitches back, knit 2 again, now we're going to cable 2 back, so slide 2 stitches onto that cable needle, knit 2, put those 2 stitches back, and knit 2 again. Now we're going to continue knitting until the last stitch. And knit one front back. So now we've completed our second claw cable, and you should be able to start to see those converging cables form. This is a really tight claw cable. Usually there's more rows in between each set of cable rows, but I really wanted that texture to stick out a lot in the final piece so that it has like a really heavily braided textured look against the plain garter background. Row 10 is the second row of the repeat. You're going to knit one front and back, and then we're going to knit until the center spine, which is, you have stitch markers around those 8 stitches, you would just knit until your stitch markers. It's a little harder to see where the spine starts if you're working on the wrong side, so I would highly recommend stitch markers for those rows. Sometimes you have to flip it around to see where it is. So now I have reached my center 8. I can tell because I flipped it over. You're going to purl 8 stitches. There we go. And then you're going to knit until the last stitch. And do a knit one front back. Row 11 is our easy row in the repeat. You're going to knit one front back. Then knit all the way across until the last stitch. And knit one front back in the end. Row 12 is going to be the final row of the repeat. So we're going to start with a knit one front back. Then knit until that center spine. Again, you would knit until your stitch marker, or you can flip to double check. I need one more. Oops, went one too far actually. So now I'm going to purl 8 for that center spine. Knit until the last stitch. and do a knit one front back in the final row. Final stitch, not final row. All right, so you're going to You're going to continue repeating rows 9 through 12 until your piece is the desired width you want. Again, you're measuring using that top section, so as soon as this would fit loosely around your neck in the way that you would like it to, then we will start part 2 of this pattern, which will be knitted in the round. Alright, once you have finished the bandana portion of your cowl, you should have something that looks like this with your lobster claw cables going up the center. To make sure that you're getting started the right way for knitting in the round, you do want to make sure that you end on a right side row. So what I did is I did my repeats through row 12, and then I did an additional row 11, so the one where you just knit all the way across, so that my project was facing the right way for the next step. So you can see that's why this one cable at the end is a little bit extended, but that row won't really show anyway in the final piece, so it was easier than doing another cable row for it to not end up showing. So I ended up doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cables total, so 8 of the repeat set of rows. This gave me enough stitches to go all the way around my circular needles because I'm using a slightly shorter set of circular needles than what is usually used. You can do what's best for you. You could also take the time now to switch from your straight needles or circular needles to double pointed needles if that's what you prefer. You could also continue the next steps knitting flat and just sew up the back of your cowl at the end if that is what you prefer. But I'm going to show you how to continue by knitting in the round. So since we ended on a right side row, when we go to flip, your yarn will be on your right hand needle. And instead of squishing all of the stitches the way that you would to knit straight, we're going to go the other way around. So now that I have my yarn attached to my right needle, I'm actually going to start knitting normally, but going onto the needle that doesn't have the yarn on it. And for this portion of the cowl, we're just going to do a simple knit 1, purl 1 pattern. So knit 1 and purl 1. And you continue that all the way around. And I'll show you what it looks like after I have a few rows of that completed. This is what it looks like after you have a couple rows of the ribbing. You're just going to continue to rib until the ribbing section is twice as long as you want the turtleneck to be, because you're going to wear it folded over. So go ahead and continue that ribbing until you reach your desired length. Alright, I have finished the rib section. I made mine about 8 inches, give or take, and I'm ready to do my cast off. This cast off that I'm going to be using today is just a basic cast off, but you could do a stretchy bind off if you would prefer. All I do is knit 1, knit 2, and pull the first one over the second one. This one's a little stuck because it's the end of the circle. Show you one more time. Knit 1, pull the first one over the second one, and repeat that all the way around your finished piece. Once you have finished going all the way around, your ends should look like this, and all you need to do is weave in your ends both from this side and from the original point at the bottom of the project. Once you finish sewing in your ends, you just fold the top collar down to get your finished piece. I am also going to add fringe to mine, but that part is optional. And this creates just a really cozy piece that can kind of stick out of the front of your jacket if you have it quarter zipped up, or provide a little bit more warm coverage for a top or a dress that maybe is normally a little bit more low cut in the front to make it more cold weather friendly. I'm going to go ahead and add my fringe and show you what it looks like at the end. And here's what it looks like with a little bit of fringe added to the end. I didn't go all the way up the sides for the fringe because as the piece moves closer to your shoulders, it folds under a little bit and it wouldn't be visible anyway. So I just stuck to the front for the fringe, but this is the finished piece. It's nice and warm and cozy. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked what you saw, make sure that you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more crafty things and more Dungeons & Dragons tutorials. You can also check out the Dungeons & Dragons playlist on my channel to see the other patterns that are already out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone!